look at this thing. It's like, well, that drawing sucks. It's like,
Daddy, look, it's a fish. No, it's not. That's just lines. Unrecognizable. Tell me it's abstract and maybe.
put a curved line in the fucking fish. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so let's record the intro now.
So what did Milkless? Because I think we start with the name.
Two dads, we love our kids, but then we also need them to know that we're like pretty cool and it's not like a wimpy podcast. So, hey,
Hey.
Milkless.
Hey, welcome. Hey.
Hey, Milkless. Call the audience, Milkless. What's up, Milkless? Matt and Max coming at you.
What if that's it? That's our first take. On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about this thing. You ever had this where your kids ask you to look at them? You know about this? Yeah, that shit happens a lot. Max and I are trying to see it as more than just annoying and maybe develop some strategies for how to respond to it the right way. I don't know. You know, we're doing our best. It's a lot. Here we go.
All right, Matt, today we're talking about look. Look, Dad. Dad, look.
Look at me.
Hey, Dad. Dad, look.
Look at me.
Dad, look. Watch me. Hey, watch this. When our kids ask us incessantly to watch them, starting from probably when they can talk up until, who knows, still happens with our oldest. So how do you want to get into this one today? I mean, I got a study that can round it if we want to dive that way, or what do you think, Matt?
Let's get in. If you got some data, bring us in.
This was done by Concordia University in 2012. What they did is they had the parents come in, do a task in front of their kid, and the kid would eventually try to get the parents' attention. Mm-hmm. So when the parents responded positively, it corresponded with two things. So when the parents responded to those requests more often, the kids were more likely to make more positive attention-seeking requests. So
how were they tracking that?
So positive attention-seeking requests were defined as like asking politely, like, Dad, check this out. As opposed to just like, sometimes they'd come up and take the pen out of the parent's hand and throw it. That was considered low quality.
I would consider that pretty low quality. Fuck you.
Hitting, punching a kidney. Makes sense though. It's like, if you're ignoring your kid, maybe they're going to devolve into slapping you to get your attention. So secondly, and more interestingly, when the parents responded positively, those kids tended to develop more collaboration. In the second part of the study, were more willing to collaborate. And that also makes sense. Like if the parents are like ignoring you constantly, you have to resort to grabbing their pen and throwing it across the room. You're not actually ready to jam and build a massive Lego set.
Yeah. And the parents are also kind of modeling, I guess, like here's how a person responds to somebody asking for them to do something with them or for them to be a part of something together. If the parents have a good response to that, then the kids will be like, oh, so when mom or dad asks for my attention, I'm more willing to give it and get into whatever with them.
100%. So basically the whole kind of byline or the headline on this thing is like, think twice when your kid yells, look at me. It's important.
This is a tough one because like they ask you to look at them so much that you can't possibly respond ideally every time.
When I am full of energy and my whole plan for the day is to be with the kids, I do look all the time and I'm excited and it's great. It's when, you know, my wife's out of town and I got to cook dinner in 5 minutes and they ask me to look and I bite their head off. Yeah. You know, that's not good.
The motherfucker of this is that they're going to ask. And if you don't respond, they're going to ask in increasingly not great ways.
Yeah.
But then like life. I did read a little bit of guidance that was good. That was like, you can't, especially if like I'm talking to my spouse and just mid-sentence, they're like, look at me. You don't want to stop talking to your spouse mid-sentence to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because that sends not the right message.
Right.
But if you don't acknowledge at all that they've made a request, that request is just going to get more shrill.
Right.
So you can squeeze their hand or just make eye contact.
Just break their pinky.
Yeah.
Just snap their fingers.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, if you just backhand them, then they know that you've heard.
No, but like what we do is we'll say, because I think we solved this problem a while ago, like we'll just turn to them really quickly. And even if I got 7 more seconds to finish the thought with my wife, I'll be like, 1 second, buddy.
Yeah.
And then just continue. Yeah, you got to acknowledge it, but you can't give in because then they rule the roost.
Yeah, and they grow up thinking that they are the actual fucking center of the universe.
Right.
And every child starts that way, but you kind of got to ease them out of it. And I mean, there have literally been times when it's like between my two kids, there have been stretches where I feel like if I looked at you every time you asked me to look at you, I would have to quit my job. We would all starve to death.
Yeah.
We would be kicked out of our house. But I do, man, I try to never shame other parents, but I had this experience, and God, we've probably all been on the wrong side of this experience, but we went down to the Riverwalk in San Antonio, which is this cool place. And we were there with both of our girls, and we were sitting beside the Riverwalk, and my 6-year-old spotted a duck who had a bunch of ducklings behind it. She was like, ducklings. And we were just there for the day on vacation. And so we were all in it, and we all got super psyched about the ducklings. My 2-year-old was psyched about it. And then this boy who looked probably like 5 at the table next to him with his 2 parents said, look, guys, ducklings. And both of his parents were on their phones. And he just kept saying, he's like, look, there's baby ducks, there's baby ducks, there's baby ducks. And his parents just literally said nothing. They were just on their phones. And then finally, when he got loud enough, his mom did a 1/4 turn where she obviously could not see the ducklings, obvious to everyone, including her son, and said, oh yeah. And watching that moment from the outside broke my fucking heart for that little kid. If that is happening to a kid a lot, that is a fucking sad thing.
And we've all done it.
We all have that moment.
Like I've definitely said, someone's like, look, there's a deer outside. We have a lot of deer so I've seen the deer.
Yeah.
I do a half turn. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
When they're babies, that flies.
Yeah. Yeah.
There comes a time where they'll call you on it.
They know.
You didn't even look.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's she did that to us one time. We were traveling, we were on a trip, and my wife and I saw a beautiful lake.
Yeah. You've told it on the program before. We know. We know that.
All right. Well,
me and the listeners, we know.
Jesus.
You don't listen to the podcast?
We'll cut that. Not so much because of the repeated story, just because we don't want people to think you're an asshole.
Oh, it's good.
Anyway.
But so you're kind of in this because you did a social media piece about it. Like this episode idea was your idea. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backdrop?
Well, I feel very much in the thick of this now. It feels part of a bigger trend, which is that my almost 2-year-old is really stepping into her personhood, which is hard for my 6.5-year-old because there's just limited attention from both my wife and I. And so they are both asking me to watch what they do a lot. And it's new from my 2-year-old. And I think because it's new from my 2-year-old, not quite 2, she's like 22 months, because it's new from her, it has gotten much more constant from my 6.5-year-old.
Is it one of these things where your almost 2-year-old is like, look, Dad, look. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And then all of a sudden from the other side of the room, hey, Dad, look at me.
Hey, Dad. Yeah.
Don't forget about number 1, bitch.
Don't forget about me. Yeah, I was here first, motherfucker. Yeah, totally. There was a moment in the swimming pool where they were both swimming toward me, locked on my eyes, just both shouting, look at the same time. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to fuck one of you guys up. It feels impossible to fully meet their need to be looked at. And at the same time, I had this moment, my 2-year-old, she got some new clothes. They're not new. They're hand-me-downs. We unpacked some new hand-me-downs. They were new to her. She was very excited. And I heard her from back in the bedroom shout, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And so I came out of the kitchen and she came around the corner and she said, Daddy, look. And she held up a dress that she'd never worn before and looked down at it and then looked up at me. And like the nakedness, the guilelessness of her need for me to see it and like it just hit me like a ton of bricks. It is so important to this little girl that I like her dress. And luckily in that moment, I've just, oh, that's so beautiful. I went over there, I looked at it, but I'm not always, that's like when I ace it. And so I'm feeling this difficult conflict between the impossibility of doing it every time they ask and how important it seems to be that I do it a lot of the time when they ask.
Yeah, that's very succinct and really money story and point. It's like, from my perspective, I think that my kids are a little older, so they're a little bit more out of the zone, but I've gone through that. I know that feeling. It still happens also. I mean, our kids are 4, 6, and 8. It does pop up more when different things happen. The younger child hits a certain age. I've been on a business trip for a while. I haven't been super present with the kids. Like a weekend day, normally weekend days, I'm like a full court press on the kids. If for some reason I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on Violet Archer. all day, then, they might act out a little, not act out. I mean, they're just being their normal selves. That's where we might run into some issues.
Yeah.
So there's usually some sort of stimuli that is.
Well, as soon as you are around them, but start a task that is not about them, that's when you get lut.
Yeah.
It is like weird for kids to be around you when you're not paying attention to them.
Yeah. Let's go back to your original thing, though. I really, really like the way you said that about the dress. In that moment, it is truly important.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones are important. Like the secondary bullshit is secondary bullshit. Oh, look at look at my thing. It's like, that's just like weird from a place of compulsion almost.
Yeah.
But if it's like, look at this Lego thing I made. I spent 2 hours on it. Dad, what do you think?
Yeah.
All it takes is like one follow-up question to not be the woman at the duck pond.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, you made this? So what is this little thing?
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, automatically, Dad is interested in me. Because also we always are in our own little fucking orbit. Like that kid's been working on a Lego for 2 hours, working on a drawing for a long time.
Yeah.
There's one moment where they're going to like read how you interpret that thing. Those are the important ones.
Yeah. So often we're doing things, we're kind of acting as a part of our kids' brains or psyche that they don't have yet. We want to eventually train them to not need so much external validation for the things they do, but part of that is like validating the things they do.
That's brilliant.
I went and researched. I was like, are people talking about this a lot? Like, I want to know why. And I thought there might be some profound psychological reason, but most of the answers came back. They're either proud of something they did, or they're interested in something that they want to get your take on and experience with you, or they're just feeling invisible, because kids do feel invisible a lot. I think we try really hard to make that not the case. You do see some parents where it's like the kids are meant to be seen, not heard.
Yeah. French people.
Right? The fucking French. I think that our generation of parents is really trying hard to correct that and to allow kids to be very much in things. The proud one, I think, the moment with the dress is, I think, the most important one. The moment when they're interested in something is also good, but it feels a little more like you can be like, give me a second or whatever. The moment when they're really proud of something feels like a big deal.
Yeah. And like, there's a couple things in there. I'd love your take on it, because we're going to have him on the program soon, Danny Aronson of Sport for Growth, but he talks a lot about where he'll even maybe go to an extreme and kind of like not tell his kids he's proud of them. Mm-hmm. But spend a lot of time saying like, you should be proud of yourself. Like, oh my gosh, like his ultimate goal, however you get there, is that kids should be intrinsically self-motivated and proud of themselves. Yeah. But I would challenge him, and I can't wait to have him on, to talk more about like what you said is like a way for them to be intrinsically self-motivated is maybe to let them know that their rock is there. Mm-hmm. Dad or mom or both will always be proud of them. The counterpoint to that is if you're always like cheering on the sidelines, like, great job, great job, great job, like when they score a goal, the converse of that is if you don't score a goal, or if I don't have a pretty drawing, my dad isn't proud of me. Yeah. I don't have all the answers, but I try to always give it back to like efforts over outcomes. Like, how long were you working on that? Because sometimes like your kid does do something exceptional. So what do you think about that? Like, if they do make something exceptional, like that someone their age probably couldn't do.
Wouldn't normally make. Yeah.
Yeah. You tell them that or no?
So my mom, I remember when I was older, she said, I made an effort to not tell you I was proud of you very often because I didn't want to take from your accomplishments and somehow make them mine. Mm-hmm. But she gave me plenty of, it wasn't like she never told me good job. She just made it. It was exactly what your friend Danny is saying. She made an effort to phrase it in a way that I don't know that like
no one's gonna fuck up your kid by telling him how proud you are.
Of them. Right. Yeah. And I don't worry so much that like me being proud of them will translate to them eventually being proud of themselves. And ultimately, I'm always a little reticent to like get too much in my head about like, here's the correct way to say this. True. It's like if my intention is right, which is that I love the shit out of my kids and I'm impressed by what they did, then it'll come across the right way. I often go to, I don't know why this is my construct, but if they show me something really cool, at first I'm the doubter. they'll show me somebody like, I did this. I'm like, no, you didn't.
No,
you did not.
No way.
Because the doubters give them fuel.
Yeah.
And then they're always like, they always take you a little seriously. Like, yeah, I did that. And then I'm like, what? So you get the doubter and then they're like, no way.
I like that.
So I don't worry that much about the specific language. I don't worry about them knowing I'm proud of them. I do buy into the effort over outcomes thing. We've talked about that before on like the growth mindset. Also, outcomes are often outside of your control.
Yeah.
Effort is not. At the end of a basketball game, whether you make that game-winning shot has nothing to do with how hard you tried or how good a person you are, or even how good a basketball player you are.
There's one other thing that Danny says from his research that is so cool, and I've started doing this. Instead of saying like, you scored 2 goals, like you're amazing, he'll say, I had so much fun watching you.
Ah, that's cool.
And I started doing that, and you see the kids' faces light up. Because one time my kid did score 3 goals. I didn't mention it because then what if he doesn't score the goals next time?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, oh my God, that was so much fun watching you.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Why'd you like it? I'm like, just seeing you run all over the place and how much fun you were having. And like, it was like the best thing ever. He's like, what did you like it more than? I'm like, more than watching TV? Yeah. They're like, wait. You like watching me play soccer more than watching TV? Their face lit up.
Yeah.
So then it's like, there's no pressure for the next time. It's just like, have fun. Because dad loves watching you have fun. This episode is brought to you by Violet Archer and the Case of the Purple Martin. It's a book that Matt wrote, I illustrated, Milkless Publishing is putting out. It's a children's book for kids age 5 to 12. Now, Matt's a creative. He writes screenplays. He's an acclaimed filmmaker. But what is that like, Matt, when you are the creative, you make something and then you got to kind of sell it? Like, isn't that kind of at odds with like art?
It feels weird. I tell you what, it helps to have a good friend who happens to do illustrations and is also good at selling. There's always kind of a part of you that's like, it's just a story I made up and wrote down. But I really do believe in this one. And I read it to my kid and it got a real good review from her. I think this is a good book, man. I'm really proud of it. So it's weird to sell it, but I'll do it anyways, because this one I like quite a bit.
Well, you've been susceptible to my cajoling, and I'm glad that you've let us bring this into the world because it is so friggin' good, guys. So check the podcast description for a link to buy the book or search Violet Archer on Amazon and go buy this thing.
Thanks, Maxie. It's funny, man, that like what you were talking about is fundamentally the same conversation that I'm having with the 2-year-old. It is so important to them that you see them doing what they're doing. Like that need is just so central to them to be seen in that way by their parents, especially if they're doing something they're proud of, especially if they're doing something that they tried hard at. I think a lot about connecting, trying hard at something, because trying hard at something is hard. It's like, it's like that's kind of a tautology.
Yeah.
But like hard things are hard. So there has to be some validation, whether it's like you're getting better or but part of that validation for kids is like, I tried really hard and my parents saw that.
Right. And that's why like praising the efforts over outcomes is, I think, just way better. I mean, as long as we make sure that our praise or excitement at the things they're doing, again, to your point, as long as you're praising your kids, you're pumped at what they're doing, you're not going to fuck this up. I think the legendary move is to make sure that you don't wrap up your own shit in your praise. And that's what happens with efforts and outcomes.
Yeah.
Do I want my kids to score 3 goals a game and be like the star soccer player? I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't.
Any parent would.
Yeah. You can't put that on your kid.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things where I'm just trying to be a supportive parent. You can twist them up a little bit if you're too into your own like proudness, your own shit.
Well, and when my 2-year-old said, "Look at my dress," really what she needed was for me to see her.
Yeah.
To really see her and love her.
Yeah.
That's kind of all she needed. When your kid scores 3 goals or scores an own goal, really all they need to know is that you see them and love them.
It doesn't matter what you say. It's just being there, like you said, for your child. But that extra beat, if I'm thinking about dinner or thinking about work or something, I'll just be like, oh yeah, cool, man. That's super cool. Super cool. Take that extra beat. It doesn't take much. 10 seconds of real.
Yeah.
And I find that when I pepper those in where it's like really serious, because even if you're making eye contact, it can be kind of fake. That's so awesome, dude.
It can just be cursory.
That's so cool. So cool,
and they
man.
fucking know. Yeah. One way to almost think about it is like they are looking to you for how to feel.
Yeah.
So if they show you something they're really proud of and you don't really care, well, then they'll probably feel less proud of it.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it's funny because I know what you mean. It's like, I've seen the deer and I've seen a lot of deer in my life. Another way to look at it is that we're the fucking assholes for not getting excited about deer anymore. That's a wild creature that's like beautiful and amazing. They're also looking to you for like, how excited should I be about deer?
Yeah.
And it'd be great if you could stay pretty excited about deer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whether it is something that they're proud of or whether it's something that they're excited about in life, I want to still get fired up about seeing a kind of bird in my yard.
Yeah.
So that my kids will also feel like it's something to be, that the world is a thrilling and magical place.
Yeah. He made me think of this dad influencer who I literally want to choke out to death. But basically,
which one?
They do these like things that make you feel bad. Like they're going to stop asking someday. And I hate to kind of lean into that one a little bit, but to your point, like they're engaging with you, you know,
Yeah.
when it's the good ones, you know, what if it's not a good one and they're whining at you for no reason, interrupting you? I just needed to go in the office for 5 minutes. I'm going to be right back out.
Yeah.
And they come in attention seeking.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the big challenges that I'm finding is that like when it really feels like it's just that they need a parent to look at them. It's not that that need is invalid. It can be annoying, but like they're saying it because they feel like they need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like kids aren't generally like super manipulative. They're not sophisticated enough. It's like if they ask you to look at them, it's because they want you to look at them. With my 2-year-old, it is easy to have patience for that. With my 6-year-old, it's cringy. It feels like needy.
Yeah.
And I have this response that is like, and I try not to, but there's sometimes just like, ew, it's not all about you, dog.
Yeah. No, I've definitely said in the heat of the moment, like, dude, are you serious right now? Do you see that I'm doing something?
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude?
Yeah, I've said the equivalent of that. Well, and sometimes, I mean, it is genuinely like, I remember one time when I had gotten a flat tire on the side of the road. It was pouring rain and we needed to be somewhere. And I was on the ground just sweating my fucking nuts off with a tire iron loosening lug nuts.
Oh my God.
And my daughter was like on the grass beside me because I'd had to take her out. We were both getting soaked and she saw a beetle. It was like, Daddy, look. And I was just like, God damn it.
Read the room.
Read the fucking room, kid. Yeah. Or like when you're merging into traffic or like what it doesn't matter. Like
those come out because it's like you need to fucking learn how the world works.
Yeah.
Don't
be like that. So a couple of things that I think about that. One, that does feel a lot more cringy coming from an older kid, but the need is not any less real or any less valid or any less like primitive.
Right.
And that kid, that 6, 7, 8-year-old kid is closer to being that 2-year-old or that baby than they are to being you.
Closer than to being able to ride the rides at Disney World.
Fucking A. Yeah. You just got to remember that's a little kid. And that's I'm definitely running into that with my 6-year-old. And we've talked about that with your 6 and 8-year-old too. It's like, how is it that you can talk about fucking black holes, but you'll still ask me to look at you while I'm on a ladder?
Those are the ones where this is maybe taking a page out of Caitlin Murray's book when she was on our podcast the first time. She kind of isn't afraid to say what she feels. I'll yell at them 100% of the time on those ones. And I think it's justified. That's the world clapping back. If you're changing a flat tire, sweating your ass off, you're obviously stressed out. And they're like, look at the beetle. I will fucking bite their head off 100% of the time. I will apologize later. But that is an impossible task.
But see, even on those, it's like they're doing the best they can.
Right.
They're just like taller babies.
It's not justified, but like...
Look, it's going to happen. This situation comes up too often to not fuck it up sometimes. I think what we're trying to do is minimize the fuck up. So one thing that I've started doing, because I realized that I was kind of unfairly holding my 6-year-old to a much higher standard than my 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. I do think it's fair to hold her to a higher standard. And this is something that I talk about all the time with my 6-year-old. She'll be like, that's not fair. I'm like, yeah, but you get to go by yourself across the street to our neighbor's house. Our 2-year-old can't do that. Mm-hmm. Fair doesn't mean it's the exact same for both of you. You have more responsibilities. You also have more privileges.
Yeah.
But one thing I have started doing with my 6-year-old, other than trying to remember that she is a little kid and it's not as different than I feel it is with my 2-year-old. The other thing I've done is articulated this exact situation to my 6-year-old. I'm like, baby, both you and your sister, it is really important that I look at you a lot. And I've even gone so far as to say, like, when your little sister was a baby, she needed mama so much that I intentionally paid attention to you more because I knew how much attention mama had to pay to your little sister. And I'm trying to even that out now. And I actually feel bad sometimes that I still pay more attention to you than I do to your little sister. And your little sister, she can't make any choices about this. She's just going to ask me to look at her. So sometimes when you ask me to look at you, when I'm either really trying to be with your little sister or when I'm doing something else, it is so hard for me to not get frustrated with you because I just can't. And it makes me feel bad that I can't because I know you want me to, but I can't right now. And I cannot look at you every time you ask me to look at you. And that has not fixed it. But we have had a number of interactions since we had that conversation where I'll be pouring boiling water into something. And she's like, Daddy, look. And I just say, baby. And I have that like tone. And before I can keep going, she says, okay, I know you're doing something. You're doing something. You're doing something. Just look at me in a second.
Yeah.
And then she's a part of it.
Yeah.
And she understands that it is not that I don't give a shit about her. It is that this particular situation I feel like is impossible for me to handle well. And so I get frustrated.
That's huge. Love it.
That happens 35% of the time. The rest of the time I'm like, baby. And she's like, but it's happening right now. And I'm like, but fuck off. It's boiling water. And then, we're like, I'm in the same boat as I always was.
Yeah.
But at least we have named the dynamic now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's made it better.
I think that's a money tactic. I think another one to keep in mind is like the best defense is usually a good offense. Just proactively checking in with the kids. Like I find that a lot of the strife tracks with the hours that I spend with my kids. If I've been busy, it's like, it's just so strange that randomly, outside of like the kids are just being total shitheads this week and they need me to look at them constantly.
Yeah.
What are the fucking chances it happens at the exact same time?
Yeah.
And then the converse, I'm working like less hours. I'm picking them up from school. We're playing. They don't give a fuck about me.
Yeah, the cup is full.
They're not even checking in.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey guys, no one wants to play with me? What's going on?
Like, whatever, Dad.
Like they have no interest. So it's like, especially with multiple kids, having that one-on-one time.
Yeah. And, the other thing that we've kind of touched on from a different direction when we talked about being on our phones is like, there's so few boundaries left in our life between work and home management and kids. And there is no better way to get a kid to tell you to look at them than to look at your phone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you want your kid to ask you to look at them, pull out your phone. So trying to create those boundaries like you did, putting the phone in the other room. Mm-hmm. And it's impossible. You can't always do it because sometimes you got to cook dinner and sometimes a work email comes in. But all this shit is worse when you're parenting distracted.
Yeah.
So whenever possible, try to do your shit and then try to be with your kids.
100%.
And man, kids are not adults. They're not like just normal people. But I do sometimes think about like if you and your partner went out to dinner with a single friend who didn't own a phone and the two of you both pulled out your phones and sat there looking at them while your single friend with no phone sat awkwardly at the table. And when your single friend who says sitting awkwardly at the table asked you to look at baby ducklings that they had seen, that they'd never seen before, you literally totally ignored them.
Yeah.
Your children are not adults, but they are humans.
Yeah.
And I see parents do that shit all the time where they just literally do not act like their kid is a human being. Mm-hmm. It's just like they just see their kid as a thing to keep alive.
Yeah. The French.
But like, it's just so fucked.
Yeah, no, it's not ideal.
It's weird because like kids can be so frustrating, so annoying, and you got to take care of yourself and your whole life can't be about them. But I also believe, and it's pretty like neurodevelopmentally proven, that what happens to them in any given moment is more important than what happens to you.
True. In
terms of setting them on the course of the rest of their life. That doesn't mean you can look at them every time they say, look at me.
Well, I think the hard thing is like, if they say, look at me like 80% of the time and it's total bullshit, you kind of discount like, okay, a lot of this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like some of it is deeply important. like incredibly important.
And it's never total bullshit, because if 80% of the time what they're asking you to look at is bullshit, it's because they're feeling not seen.
100%. Because I think also like logically we're like, look at this thing. It's like, well, that drawing sucks. It's like,
Daddy, look, it's a fish. No, it's not. That's just lines. Unrecognizable. Tell me it's abstract and maybe.
put a curved line in the fucking fish. Are you kidding me? But it's not about the quality of the drawing. To your point, it's like their need to feel seen.
Yeah.
And instead of saying like, it's the best fish I've ever seen, oh my gosh, I love watching you draw. Like, it is incredible. I love when you give me your drawings.
Yeah.
All true statements.
Totally. My wife is a therapist, and some of the therapy work that they do is with horses. And one of the reasons that she likes horses is that they respond to people's vibes, not what they say. And horses are prey animals, so they're incredibly attuned to what we, the predators around them, are thinking, feeling, doing.
Mm-hmm.
And she says there's some people, they get in a pen with a horse and that horse will just fucking crowd them, just get in their space. These are people who basically feel like they don't occupy any space, who feel invisible. And that starts somewhere.
Well, it's also just like on a New York City street, if you don't walk with intention,
dude,
you'll get checked.
Yeah.
People like push you over. But if you walk like, I'm a fucking legend, people will get out of your fucking way.
That's right. We sense it on some deep level, and feeling invisible is fucking rough. So there's a way to look at this as like what your kids are saying is like, look, I'm here. And what you need to say is, yeah, you are.
Brought to you by Violet Archer.